Hello and welcome to Unit 5 review. This will be hopefully quick, at least I intend it to be quick, but hopefully it will cover all the most important information. I'd like to start by building triads, and then we'll do some triad inversion, and then we'll look at some triads within a key, so that you can figure out what the harmonic function is. So let's start with making triads. And if you remember, when we build a triad, we're essentially stacking thirds. Let me put some clefs here. So in this palette, this note palette I've got here, I have these nice letters here, A, C, E, G, B, D, F, A, C. And essentially what I did is I took the musical letters and I stacked them by thirds in all the possible ways you could stack them. I just kept stacking them up and up and up. So here would be A, C, E, G, and then we could go farther and put a B, and so forth. But what you see here is actually all thirds that are possible to make with these musical letters. There's no way to make thirds of any other sort than the thirds you see here, which means that when we build triads, these letters are going to appear together. So if you have a triad that starts on A, you're always going to have an A, a C, and an E. I mean, you can have flats and sharps, but it will always have the musical letters A, C, E. And if you have the letters C, E, G, you're going to have a triad with a C, an E, and a G in it. It could be an E flat, could be a G sharp, but there's going to be these letters in it. So when you are presented with a triad, or presented with a chord with 3 notes in it and asked to find out what chord that is, you can compare it to this chart. So if I give you a chord with, let's see, how about D, and again, it doesn't matter if it has sharps or flats, an A, and let's see, how about an F? So I have a D, an A, and an F. If I go over to my chart, the place on my chart where D, A, and F appear together is right there, D, F, A. That is those 3 letters stacked as thirds. And what that tells me when I see that is that the bottom note, the root of my chord, is a D. Let's do another. And again, it doesn't matter if we have sharps or flats, so let's add sharps and flats. Let's do, let's see, how about this? We have an E flat, so here's an E right there. We have a G flat, a G, and we have a C. So we have some sort of C triad. So I can put my C down here. Oop. Let's get a new note head. C, E, G flat. So there's our triad. So again, what's useful about these letters is it essentially takes the musical letters and stacks them by thirds. So when you compare whatever notes you have in front of you, you always know what the lowest ordering of those notes is, essentially how those notes can be ordered by third. So anytime you have an inversion or anything else, this solves it. It tells you what note's the root of that chord. And when you know what note the root of the chord is and what key you're in, you also know what the harmonic function is, because you know what note of the scale it was built on. So this is really important, and I tend to just, I would just get a piece of paper and write this out in thirds. And the one below it is just the same system, but written out as 7th chords. So then you see 7 notes at the same time. So when you're looking at 7 chords that have been inverted in different ways, you can always find out what the root of the chord is and what note of the, and when you know the root, again, what note of the scale it's built on, by comparing it to this chart, because this chart is thirds. There's no other way to stack thirds except except in this order, in these orders. So always take the notes you're given and compare. Okay, so let's go ahead and build some triads. If you remember, there are how many semitones between for a minor third? Well, for a minor third, we have 3 semitones, right? So if we start on C, 1, 2, 3, C and E flat. For a major third, we have 4 semitones. So same thing, C and E. 1, 2, 3, 4. So all of these triads are combinations of major and minor semitones. And let's start with a major scale, a major triad. So when we have a major triad, we stack notes in thirds, and if I start on F, it would be FAC. So I go F, A, and now for a major triad, I want a major third on the bottom and a minor third on top. So between F and A, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 semitones, right? So I know it's a major third, and I want a major third on the bottom, and then I want a minor third on top. So what is it between A and C? Well, there's 1, 2, 3 semitones. So this is our F major triad. Let's do another one. Let's make a major triad starting on E flat. Well, if I look over here, I can see E, G, B. I'm going to have some sort of E, some sort of G, and some sort of B. There's going to be no way we're getting around it. So what is a major third above E flat? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. That G. So here's my G. There's a major third above E flat. And then I want a minor third, so that has 3 semitones. 1, 2, 3. G and B flat. Now, if you remember, last unit, we talked about counting semitones, and I said I like to think of it as kind of motions away. So if I look at C and E, I said that that was a major third, and I count that by going one step from C to C sharp, 2 steps from C sharp to D, 3 steps from D to D sharp, 4 steps from D sharp to E. That's how I get 4. So 1 motion, 2 motion, 3 motion, 4 motion. So again, if I did something like from G to B flat, it'd be 1 motion, 2 motion, 3 motion. So this is my major triad with a major third on top and a minor third in the bottom. So what would I do if I wanted to turn this F major triad into an F minor triad? Well, right now I have a major third between F and A, so that's too big. And if I change I can't change the bottom note because I want the F triad, F major, or we're going to turn it to F minor. So what I need to do is bring that A down a semitone. So let's add a flat. And you see here, now between F and A flat, I have 1, 2, 3. And if you remember, the major third had a major triad had a major third on the bottom and a minor third on top. Our minor triad has a minor third on the bottom and a major third on top. So let's see what we have between A flat and C. Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, which is a major third. Remember, 4 semitones. So how about our E flat triad? Well, between E flat and G, we have a major third. So again, we're going to want to bring it down by semitone. And then, so now we have between E flat and G flat, we have a minor third. And between G flat and B flat, we have what? Well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 semitones. So one way to make minor triads is to make a major triad and then lower the middle note of your triad by a semitone. But let's try a different one. Let's try creating one from scratch. Let's see. Let's start a B triad. Now, if I look at my little chart over here, if I have a triad that starts on B, I'm going to have a B, a D, and an F, some sort of B, D, and F. All right, so let's do a minor triad starting on B. And with minor triads, we're going to want a minor third on the bottom. So 1 motion, 2 motions, 3. D, D. That's 3 semitones. So let's put a D. And then between D, we're going to want some sort of F, but not F natural, right? Because F natural is 1, 2, 3 semitones. We want 4 semitones, because remember, minor triad, minor third on the bottom, B, and D, and then a major third on top. So 1, 2, 3, 4 semitones. We want an F sharp. So that's how we make major and minor triads. Let's take a quick look at augmented and diminished triads, especially the diminished, and then we will do some inversions. And after that, we'll look at some triads in keys and see if we can figure out harmonic functions. Now remember, if you have a question you want to ask, you can always type it into the Piazza form, and I will periodically go back and check and see if anybody's active there. Let me go check now. Nope, but if you do have a question, feel free to ask. So let's do a diminished triad. Now, a diminished triad will have a minor third on the bottom and a minor third on top. So a minor third has 3 semitones, so 3 semitones and 3 semitones. So let's do that. Let's make a minor triad, or diminished triad starting on D. So it's going to have a D, an F, and an A. So D, minor third above D, 1, 2, 3, is an F. Minor third above F is going to be some sort of A, right? Because we need a D, F, and an A. 1, 2, 3, F, or sorry, 1, 2, 3, A flat. So minor third between D and F, minor third between F and A flat. It's that simple. Let's do another one. Let's start it on F sharp. So here, if we have one that starts on F, we're going to need some sort of F, an A, and a C. They can be C sharps, they can be C flats. That's not important, but the musical letters are going to have an F, an A, and a C. So let me make sure this is coming through okay. Good. Let's build one major, or start with a minor third on the bottom, so between F sharp and some sort of A. So 1, 2, 3 semitones. So it's just a plain old A between F sharp and A. And then we want a minor third on top of that. So between A, 1, 2, 3 semitones is C. So F sharp A, C. Why don't we build a diminished triad starting on A flat? Well, we're going to have the musical letters are going to be A, C, and E. So let's start on A flat. We're going to find a minor third, 1, 2, 3. Now, it looks like a B there, but it's not a B, right? Because we need thirds. Remember our rule about generic intervals. You know, you have to when you have generic intervals, you count the letter names, right? So if we want a third, a third above A has to be some sort of C, right? A, B, C. So between A flat, minor third above is not a B, it's a C flat. So we want an A flat, and let's do this. Let's do a C flat, and then between C flat and some sort of E would be the a minor third. So what would that be? So 1, 2, 3. Well, that's really strange. It looks like a D, but really what we're looking for is an E. It's got to be some sort of E, an E double flat. So we'll get to resurrect our double flats. Now, I don't think there's anything like that on the exam, but I do want to show you how that works. And there are instances when we're working, especially with minor scales, where kind of weirder chords like that show up. Okay, so Let's clear some of these away. A little too strange. Let's see if we can turn this D triad into a D augmented triad, and this F sharp triad into an F sharp augmented triad. Well, in an augmented triad, there's a major third on the bottom, major third on top. So 4 semitones above D is 1, 2, 3, 4. So instead of an F natural, we want an F sharp. And a major third above F sharp is 1, 2, 3, 4, A sharp. So there, major third, major third. Perfect. Let's do this now. F sharp and A. We already know that's a minor third. We want to make it a major third. Okay, great. And then between A sharp and C, well, right now that's a diminished third, so we want to take it up to 4 semitones. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, we get a strange thing. This would be a double sharp, which I didn't make the symbol for, so that's a good indication. I won't ask you to do that on the test, but that would be a double sharp, which is that nice little X. Sometimes people notate it with a double, like literally a double sharp, like I'm doing here, but generally you want to go with the X for the double sharp. Okay, let's do a less clunky example of an augmented chord. How about, let's go back to that A flat. So A flat, if I want a triad with A, it's ACE. So A flat to what is a major third? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. A flat to C is a major third, 4 semitones. And then from C to what sort of E has 4 semitones? Well, C, 1, C to E, right there, that's 4 semitones. So this is E, and let's just make that a natural so we can remember. So we can remember that, well, that's a little ugly. So that we can remember that it's A flat, C, E. Now my tendency to put that that natural sign is because in a key that has an A flat, you're gonna have to cancel out the accidental on the E flat to make that augmented chord. So it's not very common, but it can happen. It can happen in particular in what key? Well, this is just sort of me jabbering, but it would happen in F minor. So if I just pull these notes out and kind of order them like a scale would be. Let's get rid of some of these. In F minor, in order to create a leading tone, you're going to have to raise the 7th scale degree. So that's where I get that. F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D flat, and then the harmonic minor scale would be right there. But that's where you get that augmented chord, the A flat, the C, and the E natural. That's where the augmented chord would show up. So that's sort of an augmented mediant chord because it starts in the 3rd note of the scale. Okay, so let's do some inversions. And inversions aren't so tricky. They're just like interval inversions. But let's do it without a bunch of accidentals because that'll be a little easier to see. Let's clear this palette off. Okay, let's start with that F major triad we had before. Now, if I want to invert this, I'd simply take either the bottom note or the top note and put it above the rest of them. So I actually want to take the bottom note, but it seems to keep giving me that top note. Let's just do the bottom note. Let's do the bottom note and put it up. There we go. So I took this triad and made this triad by taking the bottom note of the scale and taking it up an octave right there. So instead of, let's see, F, C, I have A, C, F. Oh. And if I did that one more time, I could take the bottom and put it above. I could get a C, F, and then A. So that would be another inversion. Let's do it. Let's see if I can clean that up a little bit. Yeah, that's easier to see. So here's our root position triad, and then the first inversion would be to have the third of the triad. So we can go right across and see third of the triad right there. Have the third of the triad be on the bottom, and then the fifth of the triad be on the bottom. See? FAC, AF, ACF, CFA. So I'll do it here. There we go. So there is our three versions of the triad. And again, I just took the bottom note up. But no matter which one you get, you can take these three letters, C, F, and A, and compare it to the little chart here in FAC. You can know what the bottom note is. So you can get this A, C, F, and you go, oh, okay, it's an FAC chord. It's some sort of F triad. And if I did something similar, let's see if we can just take a random triad and see if we can figure out what the deal is. So here would be a random triad. We have a, there are some things like this on the exam, but if you have a G, a B flat, and an E flat. So you don't know, it's not stacked in thirds, you don't know what kind of triad this is. Well, if I look over here, G, B flat, okay, they're together, G and B flat are together there, oh, and an E flat, right? So it's some sort of E triad. The E should be the root of that chord. The only way to stack it into thirds is to put the E on the bottom. So here, all of a sudden, you've reordered your triad in thirds. You know what the root of that triad is. You know the root of that triad is a B flat, or sorry, E flat. And you know what the inversion is. It's in first inversion because the middle note of the triad is on the bottom. So that's inverting a triad. Now we tend to give these triads names. We tend to call the first inversion triad a 6-3, and that's because if you count generic intervals from the bottom, you have a 1, 2, 3, so you have a generic third, and then from between the bottom note and the top note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6-3. You have a 6 above the bass and a 3 above the bass. Here you have a 6 above the bass and a 4 above the bass, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would be a 6-4 triad. This would be a 6-3 triad. This would be technically a 5-3 triad, or sometimes referred to as root position. So these are triads. These are our triad inversions. We have a root position. We have a 6-3, or sometimes just called a 6, and we have a 6-4, sometimes always referred to as a 6-4 triad. Okay, so we've made triads major with a major third on the bottom, minor third on top, minor with a minor third on the bottom, and a major third on top, diminished with minor third on top and bottom, and augmented with major third on the top and a major third on the bottom. And then we've inverted our triads by moving the bottom note up an octave over and over again, but we can always compare it to our chart to see what the lowest ordering is, and that's what we want to find. Okay, let's see if we've got any questions here. Nothing yet. Okay, so let's let me clear this off. I wonder if I can reload this. Ooh, I haven't shaved. All right, let's grab that again. Okay, so I've cleared off some of the debris here. Okay, so let's make a key signature and build a chord in that key signature and see if we can figure out what the harmonic function is. So let's build a key here. Let's build, what key would this be? Well, this in major, the major key this would be A major, right? So you go to the last sharp, which is a G sharp, and go up a semitone. So G sharp to A. So let's build a chord. Let's do one of the chords we were looking at before. We have an F sharp, an A, and a C sharp, right? So F sharp, A, C. So if I was in A major, what is the harmonic function of this triad? Well, first of all, start with A, right? Because A is the tonic. So let's go ahead and put an A down here. So we get an A, tonic. And then let's add the supertonic, which is the second scale degree, B. And we can add the mediant, which would be a C sharp. And then we can add the subdominant, which would be a D. The dominant would be an E. And the submediant would be F sharp, right? And if we just finished it off, the G sharp would be the leading tone and then back to tonic. So here's our A major scale, and we have an F sharp triad. So the F sharp triad would be a submediant triad, right? Built on the 6th scale degree. And if I look over here, between F sharp and A, 1, 2, 3, we have a minor third, and between A and C sharp, 1, 2, 3, 4, I have a major third. So minor third on the bottom. What type of triad is it? This would be a submediant triad in root position. It's a minor triad. Let's build another one. Let's just pick one at random. Let's give me a hard time here. All right, there we go. We have some sort of triad here. So let's look at the letters. Well, I have an A, F right on the bottom, and then a B. Oh, wow, B right there. So F, B, and then D. So what type of triad do I have? F, B, and D. It's the only place in this chart where those letters come together. So this is the way you have to stack them to make thirds. So what type of triad is it? Well, it's some sort of B triad, right? So a B, D, F. We have a BDF triad, right? So is this major or minor, or augmented or diminished? Well, let's look. Between B and D, I have a minor third, 1, 2, 3 semitones, and between D and F sharp, 1, 2, 3, 4 semitones. I have a major third. So minor on the bottom, major on top. This is a minor triad. It's built on the 1, 2 second scale degree. So it's supertonic. So it's important that you remember what the harmonic function is of just the different scale degrees. But if I look back at this, what's the inversion here? We know it's a B triad, but what inversion is it? Well, you can look here, right? Root position, first inversion, second inversion. The F is in the bottom, so second inversion. But you can also see 1, 2, 3, 4. The generic interval between the bottom two notes is a fourth. The generic interval between the bottom and the top notes is a sixth. So this is a 6-4. Or you can just look root position, first inversion, second inversion, right? And the same thing works when we do finally move up to seventh chords. Root position, first inversion, second inversion, third inversion, depending on which note of the group is in the bass. So let's move and try this again with a minor scale, because that can be a little bit more complicated, but let's not change the key signature. What minor scale has the same key signature as A major? Well, remember we said it starts on the 6th scale degree. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The major scale that has the same key signature, the relative minor, is F sharp minor. So let's just go ahead and move everything up. F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp. Now this is a natural minor scale. And I'm just going to leave those legend lines for now because they seem to be a pain to grab. And if we remember, sometimes we will see a raised leading tone. So sometimes this E will become an E sharp because we have a major second between the 7th and 8th scale degrees, between the 7th scale degree here and the tonic, and we want a minor second, right? We want just a semitone between those. So this is our subtonic with just the E, and when we add the E sharp, it becomes a leading tone. But if you remember, now between D and E sharp, we have that augmented second, which was not real popular. So sometimes people will raise the 6th and the 7th scale degree. So what you'll see in chords is sometimes you'll get Ds and Es, and sometimes you'll get D sharps and E sharps. So sometimes you'll get just the natural scale, and sometimes you'll get altered 6th and 7th scale degrees. So let's go ahead and make one of those altered chords. Let's use an E sharp, and you'll know it's altered. You'll know it's altered because we'll give you an accidental. All right, and if we give you an accidental on a triad that's not in, the only time we'll give you that is if it's not in the key signature. So when we give it to you, we're kind of telling you it's one of those altered pitches. But let's just grab some notes here. How about that? What do we have here? Well, we have a G and a B. All right, they're right together right there, G and B, and then an E. So, we have some sort of EGB triad. So let's just put the E down there. There, some sort of EGB. That's our triad, stacked in thirds. If we remember, the G used to be on the bottom, but now we've moved the E down there. So it used to be a first inversion. Now it's in root position. What type of triad is this? Well, it's a G sharp, or E sharp to G sharp, it's a minor third, and G sharp to B is also a minor third. So this is a diminished triad. And what is our harmonic function? Well, it starts in the 7th scale degree. So this is a leading tone, right? Because it's the raised 7th scale degree. Let's see if I can grab that. If the triad had just a plain E, then it would be not a leading tone 7th chord, a leading tone chord. It would just be a subtonic chord. So this is leading tone. This is a leading tone triad, built on the altered 7th scale degree. This is a subtonic triad built on the regular 7th scale degree without any alteration. So I know that's a little confusing, but ultimately all we're asking you to do is take the musical letters, reduce it down to a triad, figure out if it's major or minor, compare it to the scale you're in, and decide what note of the scale it starts on. Well, this is an E. I'm in F sharp, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It starts on the 7th scale degree. If you're in a major key and you're on the 7th scale degree, it's always the leading tone. If you're in a minor key and you're on the 7th scale degree, if it's got an accidental, if it's been altered, it's going to be the leading tone. If it hasn't been altered, it's going to be the subtonic. Now, sometimes the 6th scale degree gets altered as well, but that doesn't change any of the names. So don't worry about that. It's always just submedian. Okay? So let's look briefly, because I've been talking for almost 45 minutes, let's look briefly at some 7th scale, 7th chords. So here is, this is a major triad, and if I wanted to add a 7th on top of it, I would just stack another 3rd. And when I give you a triad, you can just compare it. Okay, D, F, A, C. So this is this right now is a D major triad, major 3rd on the bottom. Between D and F sharp is a major 3rd, and then minor 3rd between the 3rd and the 5th of the chord, the F sharp and the A. And then between A and C, we have a minor. So it's major, minor, minor. But actually what people would say is this is a major, minor chord, right? Because it's got a major, it's a major triad with a minor 3rd on top. Another triad, if I just changed it again, I could put instead of a minor 3rd on top, I could put a major 3rd on top. So I would do that. This would be a major triad because it's a major triad with a major 3rd on top. Major minor, major with a minor 3rd on top. And I could also do a minor. This is a minor triad, D, F, A. D and A is minor 3rd. A and F and A is a major 3rd, so we've got a minor triad, minor 3rd between the bottom 2 notes, and a major 3rd between the 2nd and 3rd note here, and then a minor 3rd on top. So minor triad with a minor 3rd, minor, or a major triad with a minor 3rd, minor, or major minor, or a major triad with a major 3rd, major. And if we could also go the other way. If we have a D and an F, that's a minor 3rd. And if we gave it an A flat, boy, that would be a diminished triad on the bottom. So B, D, F, oh, sorry, let me do that again. D, F, A flat, so minor 3rd between D and F, minor 3rd between F and A flat. And then between A flat and C, we have a major 3rd. So if we wanted all minor 3rds, we could do this. D, F, A flat, C, C flat. This would be what's called fully diminished, right? Because all the 3rds in my 7th chord are diminished, are minor. D to F, F to A flat to C flat. But if I have a diminished triad with a major 3rd on top, I'd have a half diminished, right? It's not fully diminished. All the 3rds have to be minor to make a 7th chord that's fully diminished. But it's only half diminished. The bottom triad is diminished. And you don't get a lot of augmented 7th chords, because when you start getting augmented 7th chords, the chords kind of start to wrap on themselves. G to B. All right, so E, G, B, sharp. So that would be, let's just look. Here we go. So if we went from E to G sharp, that would be a augmented. That would be a major third. And remember, augmented triads are major third, major third. So G sharp to B sharp would also be major third. And if we want one more major third, we'd be back to E again. So E to G sharp to B sharp, a major third up to E again. So we're not getting a seventh chord. We're just getting, essentially, we're just getting the triad, an augmented triad that kind of keeps wrapping on itself. So we don't really deal too much with augmented seventh chords, so you don't really have to worry about that. But let's just quickly go over our types again. We have fully diminished. All the thirds are minor. A minor or a diminished triad on the bottom, all minor thirds, and then a minor third on top. We have half diminished, a diminished triad on the bottom, and a major third on top. Half diminished. Then we have minor, right? We have a minor triad on the bottom. Oh, sorry, that was right before. Minor triad on the bottom and a minor third on top. And then we have major triad on the bottom and a minor third on top. Major triad on the bottom and a major third on top. So fully diminished, half diminished, minor, 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 major, major, minor, major, major. You just keep stacking. So we start with all major, essentially we start with all minor thirds, and then we end up with a major triad with a major third on top. But if we want one more step, we'd get that augmented, and that doesn't really exist, so we don't do that. Now again, same process. Let's see if just see what would happen if I inverted this. What would we make of this triad? Oops. Or this seventh chord. How about we do this and that? Oh my God, that's ugly looking, right? What would we do with that? Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to look at the letters, right? So we have a B and an A, a D and an F, right? So the only way you can stack this so that it stacks up into thirds is right there, B, D, F, A. So in this case, we'd have a B, a D, an F sharp, and an A. Let's put the A on first. There we go. B, D, F sharp, A. So this inverted seventh chord, we just took the letters A, B, D, F, found where they line up, and that told us what the root of the triad is. B. Now what note's on the bottom? Well, remember we said root position, first inversion, second inversion, third inversion. So an A being on the bottom tells us that this is a third inversion triad. And what they call this is a 4-2 triad, right? Because you can see there's a second above the bass and a fourth. You know, technically you could think of it as a 6-4-2, but generally when they talk about it in music theory, we just say a 4-2 triad. So 4-2. If I wanted to put it in a different inversion, let's see, let's move the F sharp down. This is the same triad. I just took the F sharp from there and put it down here. What would this be? Well, if we look at our letters again, root, first, second inversion, and they call the second inversion a 4-3, right? Because we have a third above the bass and a fourth above the bass. And if I did the same again, how about that? B, D, F sharp, A. Well, this is first inversion, right? Root position, first inversion. And they call this a 6-5. I know that's a little counterintuitive, but that's what they call it, right? Between the outer two notes. And what those numbers are telling us is, in this instance, is that there's a second between those two notes, a 6 and a 5. So inversions for seventh chords are admittedly more complicated. We have a root position, and then we have a first inversion, which is called a 6-5, second inversion, which is a 4-3, and a third inversion, which is a 4-2. So it's the kind of thing where you just kind of have to, make yourself some little references and, kind of keep track of how to find these things and how to work around it. So what type of triad is this? We have a B, D, and an F sharp. So let's see. B to D is a minor third. D to F sharp is a major. So we have a minor triad on the bottom, minor third with a major third on top, and between F sharp and A is a minor. So we have minor triad with a minor third on top. That would be minor minor. So here we have a minor triad. Easy peasy. Now, if I added a key signature like this, all right, if we're in G major, what kind of triad is this? Well, G, A, B. And it's always based on the root of the chord, the bottom note in our chart here. So this would be a 1, 2, 3. So on third scale degree, it would be a mediant triad. Now just say we're in a relative key. Let's say we're in E minor. Well, what would this be in E minor? Well, it would be, let's see, E, F, G, A, B. Well, it would be the fifth scale degree. It would be the dominant chord, a chord on the dominant. Now, as we'll see, the dominant chord will always be a major minor. And this D, what would this D, this D sharp be? Well, that'd be that raised seventh scale degree, right? But you won't need to know that until next module. Okay, so I'm going to check one more time if there's any questions. Oh, there is one. So, did you go over naming the harmonic functions along the major and minor and the number inversions? Sure. I've kind of been doing some of that, but let's just do a review, and I will again, let me reload this up so we can get a clear, clean screen, which means you have to look at my unshavenness again. Oh, wait. Oh, we want this one. Okay. Let's just do a key that doesn't require a lot of thought. Let's do C major. C. First note of our scale is the tonic note. Second note is the supertonic. Third note is the mediant. Fourth note is the subdominant. Fifth note is the dominant. Sixth note is the submediant. Seventh note is a leading tone. Eighth note is the tonic again. Now these were named because there's certain properties about the ways notes in a scale move, which suggests how melodies will be developed and how composers will use these notes as they create melodies. And these tendencies led to these naming conventions. Most importantly, the dominant and the subdominant. So here's our chord, just our scale: tonic, supertonic, mediant, subdominant, dominant, submediant, leading tone, tonic again. Now, if I build a triad on C, it's going to be a tonic triad. And if I build a triad on D, it's going to be a supertonic triad. And if I build a triad on E, it's going to be a mediant triad. But how do I know what notes I'm building a triad on? Well, again, all you do is you take the notes that you're being given, look at the letters. There's a G, a B, and an E. compare it to these letters written in thirds, and you just can write that A, C, E, G, B, D, F, A, C. There. Well, let's see, G, B, and E right there. This tells me, because this is a list of musical letters in thirds, that the bottom of this chord is going to be an E, because that's the only place those three letters come together. So E, G, B. It tells me it's an E triad, and I know in C major, an E triad is built on the third scale degree right there. So it's a mediant triad. So that's how you do it. You take the notes you're given, you order them in the lowest possible way, and then you compare it to your scale and count. So this is the 1, 2, 3, third note of my scale. That's the mediant. And if you don't remember the harmonic function names, just go back to Unit 3, where we talk about scales, because we tell you what the names of the harmonic functions are for every note in a scale. Okay, so this is naming in a major scale, and then some quick inversions. And you can see, just write this down for yourself: A, C, E, G, B, D, F, A, C. Now, if I went any farther, I'd get back to A, C, E again, right? A, C, E. So this is where it stops. These are all the possible combinations of triads, musical letters stacked in thirds. Now, musical letters stacked in fourth, we go farther, right? C, E, G, B, F, A, C, A, C, E. If I went to one more, A, C, E, G, then I'd get back to this initial. So this is all the all the possible stacks of thirds in our seventh chords. So those are kind of critical. You really want to remember those. Now let's just say I did this in C minor. So here's the key signature for C minor. So C, E flat, G, D, F, A flat, E flat, E, B flat. It doesn't really change the function: tonic, supertonic, mediant, subdominant, dominant, submediant. Submediant would be an A flat, C, E flat. And even if we raise the sixth scale degree, and remember we did this on our melodic ascending scales, even if I raise that sixth scale degree to an A natural, canceling out the A flat here, it would still be a submediant chord. It would go from being a major chord to a diminished chord, because A to C, C to E flat, those are all minor thirds. And let's look here. This is the only one that changes. A B flat D F chord is a major chord, and it's called a subtonic. It's called sub because it's below the tonic, right? It's below the tonic, a major second. So between, remember we talked about semitones and whole tones in our different scales, and we said when we had between the seventh scale degree and the tonic, if it's a whole tone, we called that seventh scale degree subtonic. And oftentimes people want to raise it. So if we raise that seventh scale degree, in other words, if we add an accidental, and on minor scales, you will see us add accidentals if we're trying to make these two chords. But if we raise that seventh scale degree, we're going to get a leading tone. So subtonic, raise seventh scale degree, leading tone. Hopefully that answered some of your questions. Let me reload again and see if we got figure bass. So you want triad name, major, minor, figure bass. I'm not quite sure what you mean. Do you mean like doing the major, minor, what makes a minor third or minor triad, what makes a major triad, and how the figure bass works for those? I'm just going to go into the assumption that that's what you meant. And I'll just start with kind of the basic ones again. So I did cover that pretty extensively, so I'm not going to spend forever doing it. You might want to go back and watch some of it again. Let me see if yeah, here's the right one. All right, so let's start with two triads. We'll do two triads that are right next to each other. So here's the first one, E, G, B. Right, we know it's in root position, right? Stacked in thirds, E, G, B. So what type of triad is this? Well, between E and G, we have a minor third. And between G and B, we have a major third. And you remember, you can just count thirds, 1, 2, 3. And then between G and B, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you have a minor third on the bottom and a major third on top, you have a minor triad. This is a minor triad, and it'll sound sort of sad. Now, because the EGB, because the root of the triad is the bottom note, we call this in root position. So if we ask for this on the test, we'll just say root position. But if we invert it, and remember, I'm not going to change any of the letters here. So EGB, now here's GBE, right? But it's still the same three letters. It's still the same triad. So EGB, but if the G's in the bottom, it's in first inversion. So E, root position, G, first inversion, B, second inversion. And in terms of figured bass, we just call this a sixth. So this would be an E6 or E minor 6, right? So, and that's because the distance between the top note and the bottom note is generically speaking a sixth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can count up lines and spaces. Sometimes this is called a 6/3, but it's often shortened to just 6. And I believe on the test we shorten it to just 6. But it might be 6/3, which is also fine. So 6 or 6/3. If I inverted this one more time, let's see if I can grab that G. Of course, it's going to make me move all the other ones before I do it. Again, same triad, right? Same letters, B, E, G. Oh, wait, look, B, G, E, right there. It's still an E triad. E is still the only note that can be on the bottom and have this stacked in thirds. Let's see, we have a 6, generically speaking, between the bottom and the top, and we have a 4. So this is a 6/4. Second inversion triads, remember the B's on the bottom, right? E, G, B, B's on the bottom. Second inversion triads are 6/4 triads. So, major triad has a major third on the bottom, minor third on the top. Minor triad has a minor third on the bottom, major third on top. First, a root position triad. It's going to be called a root position triad. First inversion is going to be called a 6/3 or just 6, and a second inversion triad is a 6/4 triad. Hopefully that is helpful. I'm sort of going to go under the assumption that that is helpful because I've been talking for an hour and my voice is getting raw. But just for thoroughness sake, let me do this. Oh, I'm going to find the right one. Got too many windows open. Okay. Let's go back to our same EGB triad, and let's go ahead and add one more third. There we go. So we have a minor third, our minor triad, EGB. We looked at that already. Minor triad, minor third on the bottom, major third on top, E, G, B. And we're going to stack a minor third on top. So E, between B and D, right there, between B and D is a minor third. So this is a minor triad, minor, and then minor on top, minor, 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 seventh chord, right? And if we were in E, C major, this would still be some sort of mediant. It would be a mediant seventh chord, or a 3/7. 3 being the scale degree. So this is just a plain seventh chord. Let's go ahead and invert this seventh chord. We'll do the same thing. Now people would call this root position, and that's what you need to put. So what I'm going to do, maybe I'll just leave that there and make it again. All right, so here's root position. Let's do first inversion. And remember here, E, G, B, D. First inversion is going to have a G in the bass. G, B, D, E. So this one they call a 6-5 because we have a 6, that E over the G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a 5, the D. So 6-5. I mean, this is like the first inversion triad. The first inversion triad we called 6 instead of 6-3. This we call 6-5 instead of 6-5-3. So that's first inversion. And let's go ahead and do a second inversion. Now, second inversion, what note is going to be in the bass? Well, a B is going to be in the bass, right? E, G, B. So there is a second inversion triad. We've got all the same letters, B, E, G, B, D, all the same letters. We have a B in the bass, B's on the bottom. So root position, first inversion, second inversion. There's our B triad. We got if we count up, we have a third generically and a fourth. So this could be a 6-4-3, but people just say 4-3. So second inversion is called 4-3. And if we did it one more time, I'm going to take it down an octave. D, E, G, B. All the same letter names, right? E, G, B, D. Root position, first inversion, second inversion, third inversion. So this is a third inversion seventh chord. And people call this a 4-2. So between D and E we have a second, so there's the 2. And between D and G we have a fourth. So this would be a 6-4-2 or shortened to 4-2. So root position seventh chord are called root position. First inversion seventh chords are called 6-5. Second inversion are called 4-3. Third inversions are called 4-2. And hopefully that does it. Okay, yes, that seems to be better. And you know, again, if you need some more time, that's fine. If you want to ask more questions, that is also fine. Unit 5 is not easy. It's why we push so hard on the other units on scales, because you have to be able to do your scales to really be able to tell what the triad is. And you have to be able to tell what the triad is to understand what the harmonic function is, and you have to understand what the harmonic function is to be able to talk about how composers are using chords, which is where this course ultimately is heading towards, especially if you went forward in music. So hopefully that's been helpful, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.